As we all know, weather is something that we currently can't control. But I do believe that cities as a whole have the ability to reduce the effects that bad weather have as a whole on the city and its residents. As we all know, as residents of Abilene, Texas, Abilene has a big flooding problem when it comes to heavy rain and things like that. And we have long spans of heavy rain during actually this time of year. Also, as a resident of Abilene as well, I know what it's like to try to go through and navigate through times of flooding and times of heavy rain. With that being said, I believe that Abilene's flooding problem could be solved with a simple solution. Before I get into that, I'm going to start off with this. And a lot of you are probably looking at it like, what in the world is this? But this is a topographic map of Abilene, Texas. And simply put, topographic maps describe the elevation and things like that of a certain area geographically. And the more lines a certain area has, it means the higher elevation. So as you can see right here, in areas like this, they're higher elevation around the city of Abilene, but in the middle, towards the middle of the city of Abilene, it's lower elevation due to the lack of lines being condensed together. With that being said, you can see that Abilene's kind of in a bowl, as you can say. So with that, that means that when it rains, there's really no place, no flat land where the water can escape out of in times of heavy rain. The first big issue that heavy flooding causes is obviously transportation. It's hard to navigate through heavy rain and heavy flooding. And if a car's engine gets flooded and you run through a big pile of water, you can destroy your engine by flooding it. But another big issue caused by flooding, especially in the city of Abilene, I'll discuss next after this quick video. Well, the video decides not to work today. So basically, this video is the flooding of Abilene State Park, and this is a big place for Abilene since it is a state park. And the video describes how often it floods, and it also shows a clip of the flooding of Abilene Lake itself and how it just overruns with water. And with that being said, a big issue of flooding, especially in rural cities, is groundwater pollution. Groundwater is basically the runoff left from rain that flows into lakes and rivers, and it can be contaminated with anything, really. Anything the water catches will be drawn into the rivers and lakes that the runoff flows into. And the big problem with that is Abilene gets a lot of its drinking water from reservoirs and lakes and things like that. And stagnant water has a habit of getting waterborne illnesses. And waterborne illnesses are hard to find when you're cleaning water, especially with lakes and reservoirs. And that's also a big issue that we've come across. Another issue Abilene has is flash flooding. Abilene being kind of a drier area, even though it is windy, it's technically a dry area. Flash flooding is a big thing that can happen since Abilene it's not good at holding in water, so any water that comes sporadically will happen to collect and quickly flood the city. That's why we have a lot of flooding in more of the downtown area. Another big issue that we run into is the cost of flooding. And as everybody knows in here, money is really important. So a lot of things that happen is property damage and commercial damages, the stores, the places of Abilene's, residences. And we spend about $18 million average annually on flood damage due to rain and other stuff. And that's not even just flooding alone, it's due to illnesses, people getting sick from the stagnant water. And that stagnant water, attracts mosquitoes. Mosquitoes aren't the healthiest thing around. Flooding also increases the potential loss of life. Because, like I said, driving through rain, you could hydroplane with your car if there's too much stagnant water in one area. You can crash just by slipping in it. Channel erosion is also big because it also comes into play with groundwater, and water quality can be decreased too due to the illnesses that we might miss during the water filtration system. However, my solution to the problem is quite simple actually. I propose to the Abilene Board of Drainage and Floodplain System that we incorporate a better flood management system as a whole. But that being said, I feel like we should include more drainage points around not only the school, but in Abilene as a whole, in major areas known for flooding and known for holding stagnant water. An article written by Allison P. titled Inefficient Remediation of Groundwater Pollution, and published by the American Association of Science, says that basically that stagnant water in lakes and reservoirs can have an abundance of illnesses. And modern day water filtration systems sometimes don't catch these illnesses, like things like fecal matter left from animals that runs off to the water that we drink, and a lot of it don't catch it. So basically you're drinking this dirty water that hasn't been 100% filtered. Another article by Emrys G called Water Pollution Control Federation also states that a lot of cities like Abilene that rely heavily on lakes and reservoirs to get their water don't have the proper or necessary equipment to completely filter out everything that it needs to do, since lakes aren't as good as aquifers and stuff like that, since they're exposed to other elements outside of the underground. So this says that things like that can also affect our water quality and how water tastes, basically. With that being said, as just said, the solution I have is adding more drainage points. All of us go to ACU, and we know how when it rains heavily, the water has a hard time escaping from place to place and getting to our drainage system, so we have so little. And with my solution, I feel like by adding more, we'd have more place for water to escape to, instead of it having to go either long distance or being stagnant in one area. And the city of Abilene itself has a big problem with just having water sit around places when there's no drainage system nearby or close enough for the water to completely get drained out, which is why water is left for several days and sometimes weeks on end without being cleared. Another thing I found interesting, as I was doing my research on this, the Board of Floodplain and Drainage System didn't have a public floodplain plan, which basically shows the drainage where all the water goes. It didn't have one available to the public, which is kind of misleading, and it makes us feel that they don't know what they're doing themselves, since they don't show it to the public on how they control the water. But to conclude, I feel as though Abilene's old age problem of flooding can be solved with a simple solution, and I feel my solution is cost effective and can easily be implemented over, not even in one sitting, but throughout a certain period of time, just to prove its effectiveness to control water flow. And I also feel another solution would be just pay attention to more detail on how we filter our water to make it even more drinkable and decrease the hazards of having health issues when it comes to our drinking water. And that's it.
Why hasn't Abilene implemented like the system yet, like in the past?
I feel as though it's hard, dude, because it's kind of like the city it's like where Abilene is located is the reason why we have so much flooding. Like I said in my topographic graph, my topographic map, we're in a bowl, so it's kind of hard to implement. I feel like that would cost a lot more money back then as it would now. I mean, not as much as it would now, just due to technology and stuff like that.
Do you have any rough cost estimates on what it would cost to install some new drainage systems?
Usually the average cost to complete a whole new drainage system was about the cost that it cost in total, the 18 million around there, for repairs and stuff. So but as I said, like over a year's time, we'd be able to accumulate a budget and accumulate more money to implement these drainage systems around the city.
How would you plan on getting money for this?
I feel because we already get I think it's a lot of their money from just taxes and donations from other stuff. And I feel with that, if we put a certain amount towards this specifically to save it, we'll be able to complete it over a certain amount of time.
Budget for it?
Yeah, basically.
How long of a process do you think this will take to implement?
I put a max on 5 years of it, just because you don't want to do such a big thing in one sitting, just in case it's ineffective or you choose the wrong point. So I feel like a slow implementation of certain points to add more drainage systems to show how the flow of water would change over time would be